Legion is one of those shows where if you watch the first pilot episode and you don't like it, I am completely fine with anybody to just stop watching there and not continue on. We usually with shows I say, do the 3 episode rule. Watch up to episode 3, and if you don't like it by then, if you're not invested, then ditch the show by then. If you are somewhat invested, go till season 1 ends, and if season 1 ends and you're not interested in season 2, then you can also stop there. But if you are completely invested like I was after episode 1 of Legion, then you will be hooked on this show and you will absolutely love this weird, crazy, psychedelic, and just trippy ride of a show that these 27 episodes, this short 3-season series is that just ended tonight, and I absolutely love it. If you guys don't know what Legion is, it is based off of the X-Men comics, but it's not in any way connected to any of the movies or other shows at all. It's a completely standalone, separate story about these obscure X-Men characters that you really wouldn't see in any movies. Season 1 is definitely about the main character, David, about him trying to learn whether or not he has powers or if he's actually just crazy, if he's schizophrenic. And that's how this show pretty much presents itself right off the gate. This weird mind trip of a show that really does dive deep into the psychosis and the mindset of these characters. And that is what I absolutely love about this entire series. I think season 1 is completely it is near perfect. I love that entire first season from beginning to end, and it does a very strange thing where you don't really know what's happening in the show until about episode 6. Nothing makes sense until then, and then the last 3 episodes, everything comes together in a crazy way that is both satisfying and very, very cool. So if you watch season 1, I think it's a great just standalone thing. I watched season 1 a long time ago when the show first came out, and I didn't watch season 2 until very recently. So season 1, if you just watch that one, it is a very, very good 8-episode miniseries about these wacky characters that I think you guys will love. But if you continue on the series, and in this video, I will get into some spoilers for that first season and for up until the end of the series finale that just happened. So diving into season 2, Lenny, or the Shadow King, attaches itself to Oliver, and they go on into their adventures, and season 2 is really about finding the Shadow King and defeating him once and for all. But as you know, in the very Legion way, the first 6 episodes of the first season, or even more than that, I think the first 8 episodes, you don't really know what's going on. It's more straightforward. There's a lot less trippy mind stuff, even though there's a lot of trippy mind stuff. It's not in the same way. It's a very different second season than the first season was. Like, there's this weird mustache people subplot that wasn't my favorites. I think season 2 is definitely my least favorite of the 3. But by the end, you find out, and they even separate Lenny from the Shadow King, and Lenny actually gets to be her own character again at the end of season 2, which is awesome. I think Aubrey Plaza is in one of her best roles. She is so just weird and kooky and creepy at the same time, and I love her character in this show. And what the show does, which I was not expecting, even though if you are a reader of the comics, this probably wasn't too big of a surprise to you, is at the end of season 2, you kind of realize that the hero has been the villain, and the villain is actually the hero, where David turns into the villain of the show. He does some pretty bad stuff that makes it hard for him to follow, but I dove into it. I accepted it because I know that's what they were trying to do. It wasn't like a Game of Thrones where, Daenerys turned bad at the very last second of the second to last episode and they wrap it up all in the series finale. This entire season 3 is about him being the villain of the show, and I think they did a great job about fleshing his character, and I think that's what Game of Thrones could have done, but Legion did much better, turning our hero into the villain, but not a villain that you hate or that you want to lose, a villain that you feel bad for and that you're rooting for, because, he was the hero of the first season, the hero for the majority of the second season, and this also turns the Shadow King into such a more interesting character. Navid Negahban plays AMAHL FAROUK in season 2 and season 3, and I think he is a fantastic addition to the cast. I think he's very threatening and someone that you really hate and you want David to defeat him in season 2. He is such a great actor, and he is so threatening to a point where when he does, spoilers, like I said, when he does kill David's sister and melds her into the physical form of Lenny, it is all the same disturbing as it is just fantastic to watch. I loved that entire arc, and that is really the story point that pushes David into becoming the true villain of this series. And I think he's a character that was always on edge, that you never knew, if he was schizophrenic or if he was a mutant. And when you find out he's a mutant, you also find out that he's also schizophrenic in season 2. So he's both of them. He's the double threat. He's an off-kilter, he's delusional. And season 2 is all about delusions and how an idea, a delusion and an idea come out the same. It's an egg, same on the outside, but when they're cracked open, one can be, a simple little chick, or the other one can be this weird monster, creepy, slimy looking creature that is really cool. Season 3 is really about David. You know, he is the true villain of this series, but it's also learning about how he can change things and how your past defines you. That's really what this season is about. And how, you know, it's nature versus nurture. He was nurtured to be, you know, this dark and twisted individual. You know, he always wanted to do good, and he thought he was doing good. He was delusional, but all the time that he enjoyed being cruel to people. He enjoyed manipulating people, and he didn't really realize that until the end of season 2 when his friends turned on him. So season 3 is all about his discovery of trying to fix the past, which introduces this crazy and one of my favorite uses of time travel that I've seen in recent memory. I thought they did this whole timey-wimey thing awesome with this new character that they introduced. Lauren Tsai plays Switch, who is the time-traveling girl in this show, and she was awesome. I think this is her second thing in her IMDb credits, so she's going to do a lot of good things in the future. I really liked her in this show, and the use of her time travel powers is very unique, and where like just she would draw her portals in time, and the further you go back, the more these I think they call them time demons are after you, and this is a really cool idea for time travel. You know, the longer you are out in the past and the more you're trying to change, the more these demons try to stop you. And that the fact of changing time is a dangerous thing. It added a lot of stakes to this season 3, and I loved the whole like lessons in time travel chapter whatever, and this audio thing she was listening from her father that went missing, that kind of she felt like she abandoned her. And so her character and her entire arc throughout this season 3 was excellent. I loved this character, and I love what they did with time travel in this show. And the big spoiler of everything, they decided to erase this reality and reset it from scratch, which I thought is a very gutsy, but I think it worked very well for this show. This show, Legion, also cannot work without Rachel Keller as Sydney, and I think Sid is such an important character, especially in season 3 when it becomes to the relationship between her and David, and how this time travel thing kind of just like shows what she's really going through, because obviously she was abused, she was used in season 2, and it was very bad choice by David, but it just goes to show his character and how, you know, she's affected by it, and how her past and how her growing up, and like I said, it's your past that defines you, and how she was raised kind of turned her into the person she was. And so when they have this character deal with this thing, and she goes, and you even see with the time travel with Switch how Sydney goes and kills David like 3 times in, it was either the first or second episode, which was awesome to see. I think it was kind of satisfying, very earned for her character, honestly. But at the same time, it showed how she progressed throughout the series and how she got that second life. She got to relive her childhood in order to learn some very important things about maybe you can't help some people, but you know, David as a baby, she could help him, and that's how she decides she doesn't end up helping the future David that ended up hurting her, that ended up becoming the villain. She says it even at the end in one of her last lines is, "I didn't help you, I helped him," notioning to baby David. And I think her character is awesome. I think it is one of the most unique and coolest power sets I've ever seen in any character. If you guys don't know, if she touches any person, she switches minds with them, like switches bodies. It's a body switch. Very cool experience. They use it great in the first season. They don't utilize it as much in season 2 and 3. You know, she becomes a cat in season 2. And season 3, I think it happens once when they're trying to take down David, which is an awesome scene. I absolutely love that. This show does a great job at resolving everything. Like I said, they decided to reset the entire universe. It's all set back up to when David was a baby, and we don't actually get to see any of the changes that happen. So it's all up to our minds, all up to our own imaginations, our own interpretations of whether or not their like time reset worked, if David ended up growing up being a good character, which I personally believe 100% if the parents are together still and they end up raising David themselves, which it looked like they were definitely going to do. I really hope that character grows up to be someone better, and I really hope that Sydney, this new changed Sydney and this new changed David, will grow up to meet each other. I think that's a great thing to think about. I was kind of hoping that the last shot would be David much better, you know, much healthier, much more, I don't want to say sane, but much more stable David meeting, or like the last shot of the show being him looking over and seeing Sydney, and they like catch eyes, and then boom, end of the show. That would have been awesome, but the last shot is of the baby David, and it's left up to our imagination. So I think the way they resolve all these characters and how they kind of accept the fact that they're all going to be erased and they're resetting the entire show. Nothing in the show ends up happening in the end, but it's all worth getting this one timeline that is hopefully much better for the world, and they saved the world from ending. And I absolutely loved how perfectly this show wraps everything up together in a nice tight little bow that leaves you wanting more, but at the same time resolves everything, and you don't have any giant questions besides why David pulled a goldfish out of his ear. I'm still a little fishy about that in the final episode, but it happens. This show is weird. I could not be happier with the way this show wrapped up. I loved this series. If you haven't seen it, I know I spoiled the crap out of it, and if you watch this, good for you, but if you have seen this show, hopefully you loved it as much as I did. I love Legion. I think the world is missing weird shows like this one. There's not many like it. I think they ended it probably because of the Fox-Disney merger, which is upsetting, but at the same time, I do think it worked good as a 3-season thing. I just hope that Fox or Disney decides to do weird stuff with these X-Men characters like Fox was doing, like the FX shows were doing with this series. I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with different abilities and different powers besides just, a lot of punching and brute force. You can do a lot of weird stuff, like they lived in people's minds for a large majority of these episodes. There's some episodes where there's no plot progression because you're inside of a character's mind the entire time trying to figure out what they mean, what they're trying to do, and why they are the way that they are. So I think that is what makes this show completely and utterly unique. Something that I absolutely loved and something I'm going to dearly miss going forward, but I do really like this show. I'm glad I watched it. I really hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you guys watched it, if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend. So thanks guys for watching. I also have another video about the Legion series finale where my brother, who has not seen a single episode, watches it as his first, like we did with Game of Thrones, and that is a very interesting video. We just shot it a little bit earlier, and it should be uploaded by the time you guys see this video. So go check out Legion series finale without context. I think that's what I'm going to title it. So thanks guys for watching this video. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment below what you thought, and I hope to see you all in my next one.